One of my favorite things is when White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre is asked a question and there is literally no good way for her to respond. This happened just yesterday when Newsmax reporter James Rosen absolutely skewered Karine Jean-Pierre in this clip.
I want to ask about polling. In February, the president conducted an interview with, I believe it was Telemundo, and he was asked about the dismal state of his job approval ratings. And he answered in words to this effect, "Do you know anyone that believes the polling these days?" And he talked in some detail about the difficulty of getting people on the phone and compiling accurate polling. Whenever you're asked about the president's dismal job approval ratings, you say we're not going to look at polls. We look at his accomplishments. And yet when you are asked about various domestic policy initiatives, you will say these poll very well. People support what the president wants to do. If you look at the individual subjects on the polling, they support what the president's agenda is. So once and for all, are only certain polls valid in your eyes, the ones that support your agenda? Or is the polling data that shows that President Biden has been stuck for 2 years at the low 40s in his approval ratings, are those valid?
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
This is a great line of questioning from James Rosen, and Karine Jean-Pierre is not going to have any good answer to this. Now, I love the way this video is edited. That's not exactly what happened. I know some of you want to know how she responded to this, so I'm going to show you the clip in which she actually responds. She didn't just say Happy Thanksgiving and then walk off. But there's really no good response to this. She's always up there saying, well, the polls are showing that what he's doing is great. But whenever any polls are brought up that are showing that Biden's getting killed in the 2024 election, well, we don't look at polling. That stuff isn't really accurate. We don't really want to look at that stuff. So there is no real good answer from this. She's a hypocrite. She's always been a hypocrite. But if you want to see her answer to this question, here it is.
So once and for all, are only certain polls valid in your eyes, the ones that support your agenda? Or is the polling data that shows that President Biden has been stuck for 2 years at the low 40s in his approval ratings, are those valid?
So here's the thing. I think it's important to share that American people do approve of some of the president's initiative. I think it is important. I think it's important for the American people to hear that when it comes to Medicare and fighting and being able to Medicare to be able to lower costs for the American people. I think it's important to share that. I think it's important to share that when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the American people care about that and want us to fight for it, which is what the president. No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that. We are given, anytime I'm asked this question, given an opportunity to speak on what the American people want to hear and what we are doing, right? And so there are moments, just like when you ask me about certain polls, that I can say, hey, you know what? That is something that the American people support. But in more broad terms, in general, we're not focused on every poll. We just are not. It is not important for us that we believe to focus on that. We're going to continue to do the work. We are actually delivering for the American people. We're actually doing what the American people want us to do. So when I say that, that's what I'm referring to. The work that we're doing, what we want to deliver on, what the American people care about.
The polls that show that the electorate at large and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party believe that the president is too old. The polls that show the American people and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party don't want him to run again. And the polls that show his handling of the economy, foreign policy, all of these dismal polls, his job approval ratings, does the White House have any basis to challenge the accuracy of that polling?
I'm not challenging the accuracy here. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying to you is that, we're not going to change the minds of Americans. I get that. Americans are going to feel how they feel, and we're going to respect that. And I've said that many times from here. Just a couple of just data points here. I'm going to be careful not to talk about 2024, any of the elections, but I can look back in history, right? I can look back and see where President Obama was a year out of his election, where President Clinton was a year out ahead of his election. And it didn't look like they were going to win.
So one of the very obvious qualifications of a Democrat press secretary is to speak for a very long time without saying anything of any significant value at all. Her answer to James Rosen's question is absolutely ridiculous. She went on for a couple of minutes talking about Medicare and Medicaid. Of course we want Medicare and Medicaid, and we want to support Social Security, as if the conservatives want to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid and get rid of Social Security. The best way to secure Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security is to make sure that the U.S. economy is strong, our budget is in check, that we're not overspending. Because the further we get away from that, the more in jeopardy these programs will be. And there is one party that is really good at making sure that we're much higher in debt, that we're much less economically secure, that we're spending all kinds of money. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't Republicans who can do it too. They can. I'm sick and tired of those Republicans. And I think a lot of people are sick and tired of those Republicans. We are looking for real fiscal conservativity in the government. That's what we want to see voted in. And those are going to be the things that are going to ensure programs like that. But then James Rosen continued to press her because she really didn't even answer the question. And he said, but you challenge these polls against Biden all the time. She says, we don't challenge them. Yes, they do. They challenge them every time. And usually the way that they challenge them is they'll say, well, that poll says that, but you're not looking at this, and this. You're not looking at that metric and that metric. So they challenge him every time. But the problem now is Karine Jean-Pierre couldn't even challenge the latest polls because they're so dismal. They're so bad. There is no challenging of them. And it's across the board. It's horrendous. It looks terrible for Biden. But then she actually went to say, well, we could look at presidents from the past like Barack Obama and see his metrics weren't that far off. So it looked like maybe Barack Obama wasn't going to win. So, for Biden, that might not be the case. Like, as if they're still continuing to think that Joe Biden is actually going to run for president in 2024. I don't see it. They can't put this guy in there. They know it. She knows it. She's talking about Barack Obama as far as Joe Biden. Just Sleepy Joe. It's not even a comparison. Barack Obama was not a good president, by the way. But in comparison, at least he could speak. He could at least hold himself on stage, answer questions. I mean, he lied so good. He was really good at that. He was great at deflecting. He was great at projecting. Joe Biden doesn't even know where to stand. He doesn't even know how to get off stage. He has no clue. He was at that wreath laying ceremony for Veterans Day. After he laid the wreath, he had no clue where to go. He didn't even know the second step in the process. This is not a guy who's sitting in the Oval Office who's making real hard decisions. He can't even make the decision on what direction to walk. He can't make the decision on probably what to eat for breakfast. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to the guy. I'm just trying to be honest. This is a man who needs to be retired at home. He needs to go outside, sit on a porch on a swinging chair, and drink some coffee and just look at the birds. And then go back inside and watch some news, call up the grandkids. This is not a man who needs to be sitting in that Oval Office making any kind of serious decisions at all. But let's be real. We know he's not making the serious decisions. They're all being made for him. He's an absolute puppet in there. And the polls are dismal because people aren't stupid. They realize this. There's no way he's winning the upcoming election. And they know they can't run this guy. And her answer to the question was horrendous. She didn't actually even answer the question. What do you guys think about this? I think this is right on, right? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll catch you guys in the next one.